There was a lot of action going on during the noon slate. A lot of exciting games. When you were live blogging, it was good for a little bit. Ohio State.
Was it? It was never good at any point.
Had something to talk about for a little bit.
It was never good at any point.
I just liked the Tory Taylor, oh no moment.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, I mean.
Yes, please.
This is first. I don't know where to start because honestly, I have a lot of feelings about both teams coming off this game, and none of them are all that positive. Ohio State scored 54 points. It was not a good offensive performance from Ohio State at all. Like, they pulled away in the second half because at that point, the will and the spirit and the desire to go on living was sucked out of the Iowa defense as it had come to the realization that no matter how well it played, it was never going to matter because its offense was doing absolutely nothing for it. Its special teams were doing absolutely nothing for it. So Ohio State looked pretty mediocre on offense, to be honest with you, for most of this game. And it's a concern for me going forward in that they've played two good defenses all year, and they've looked kind of mediocre in both of those games. Now, I say that on the sliding scale of judging it by an Ohio State offense, but going in the season opener against Notre Dame, they were really slow out of the gate. Took them a long time to kind of find the rhythm and get going in that game, and even then, they didn't light the world on fire. Today, they were very slow out of the gate. C.J. Stroud threw one interception, but he probably should have thrown two or three. He did not look sharp. He was missing guys deep. He was missing guys who were open and not throwing the ball and just kind of being sucked into the pressure and kind of panicking. They couldn't run the ball. And like, I know Iowa's defensive front is good, but Illinois was able to run the ball on them. Ohio State couldn't. So that's a concern for me. I think if there's anything to be happy about, it's that the defense looked very good today. It had 5 sacks and 10 tackles for loss. But of course, we have to put that on the sliding scale of you're playing Iowa. And man, I don't know what you do. Because like, this was everything that's wrong with Iowa's offense was on display in this game. Like, I tweeted at some point, I says, I know Spencer Petras catches a lot of heat, but his coaching staff does absolutely nothing for him. His receivers are doing nothing for him, and his offensive line are doing absolutely nothing for him. But when Spencer Petras does actually get time on those rare occasions where he's able to stand in a pocket actually forms, and he's able to be there for a couple seconds, he's missing wide open receivers. And it is an abject failure at every single level on that offense. And I don't know how they get out of it because there's no receiver. The offensive scheme is it's not even a scheme. It might be a playbook, but there's no scheme to it. I feel like Iowa's goal on offense is to get in good punting position. That's like literally what they're trying to do. They're trying to win the field position game on offense instead of trying to score points. It's ridiculous. And it's terrible. I feel bad for Iowa fans. I feel bad for that defense because, like I said, that defense for the first half of that game did everything you could ask a defense to do against Ohio State to actually give your team a chance to win the game. And they got nothing from anybody on the offensive side of the ball, nothing from any of the coaches on the sidelines who work on the offensive side of the ball. It was just it's a pointless season from this point on for the Hawkeyes. Nothing they do the rest of the year is going to matter.
I think there's an interesting point here to bring up, right? So Adam Steinmetz in the comments says, like, hey, this is the most points a Friends defense has ever allowed. What the hell are y'all talking about? And what we're talking about here is because we know Iowa isn't any good, we're watching this game from the perspective of how do we translate this forward to when they have to play Michigan, to when they have to go on the road to Penn State in case Penn State brings their A game, right? To maybe the Big Ten title game. Like, what if Illinois plays really, really well that day or something, right? Or maybe to the college ball playoff. We're looking at it through that lens. We're not looking at it as like, hey, great job. You beat Iowa. You could have scored one offensive touchdown today and beaten Iowa. That's not really the point. The point is that there are some concerning commonalities that we're starting to see when they play the really good defenses, and that is that these defenses are not allowing the explosive plays, and they're really making Ohio State's offense struggle in the red zone. And the thing is, Ohio State actually coming into this game was number one in offensive scoring in the red zone in the entire country. So I know I'm sounding crazy to say that this is a problem, but they actually struggled with this some last year too. And the teams that can prevent the explosive plays from them do seem to reap the rewards, at least for a while, until the defense just completely, just breaks because their offense is doing nothing. But Notre Dame did this very well, right? They made them earn every bit. And honestly, Ohio State kicked a bunch of field goals, and they didn't execute down there. We have limited opportunities to evaluate Ohio State in this type of setting because most of the people they play can't actually prevent the explosive plays. So we never really have to see them get in the red zone, right? So that is where we're coming from, Adam Steinmetz, right? We just don't have a whole lot of opportunities to evaluate this. And so when we do, that's how we're going to look at it.
Yeah, if you just look at the points and you say, oh, wow, CJ Stroud threw 4 touchdowns. What are you talking about? They were great. All right, well, let's dig in. Out of Ohio State had 14 possessions. If you take away the 2, the one at the end of the first half and the one at the end of the second half, in which they just knelt and ended the game. Of those 14 possessions, 6 started in Iowa territory because of Iowa turnovers or a really dumb decision to try to go for a first down on a fake punt. They had to settle for field goals on 4 of them. Here are Ohio State's drive charts.
Tom, I have a game. You want to play a game with me?
No, go for it.
It's about this. We're going to play a game called Punt or Score, right? I'm going to give you the yardage number of the drive, and the listeners can play along at home to see if you think Ohio State scored or punted on this drive. I thought about this today when I was watching. I knew you were had to jump in because you were about to read off how long the drives were, I think, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay. 1 yard. We think it's a score or a punt or a turnover, I guess. Score or no score?
No score.
It's a score.
Darn.
1 yard drive, field goal. -13.
Fumble.
That actually was
no score.
That was the scoop and score.
All right, 75.
That was a touchdown.
Yep. All right, 4 yards.
Field goal.
17 yards.
Field goal.
22.
Field goal.
Punt.
Damn.
24.
Field goal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Negative
if it
2.
wasn't the 17, I knew it had to be the 22.
Yeah, and then when the game was they only scored 1 touchdown in the first half.
Ohio State, here's another way to put it. Ohio State had 1, 2, 3 drives last longer than 20 yards. Wow, that was a great offensive day, guys. You really showed them.
It does speak to Iowa's offensive incompetence that Kirk Ferentz, do you think Kirk Ferentz is pissed now that his son's offense is so bad that he just gave up the most points he's ever allowed despite only allowing 3 drives of 20 plus?
Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't 3. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 drives of 20 plus. My bad.
I think it's 3 before garbage time.
Yeah, the garbage, they had touchdowns on 4 consecutive drives in the second half, which is what I was talking about. Was Spencer Pitras had been benched for Alex Padilla, who threw an interception immediately that set him at the 15-yard line, and they scored on a touchdown pass a couple plays later. And it was at that point where the Iowa defense just was done. And then that's when Ohio State came to play. And that's the other thing, too. They really did not get going until Iowa was just checked out mentally.
You really missing the forest. All right. 28 touchdowns, baby. Doesn't matter when they come. Just make sure that he's the FBS leader in touchdowns and you get the program's first Heisman Trophy since Troy Smith. It's all that matters, right? That's the only thing that matters for Ohio State is let's get CJ Stroud's touchdowns up, let's get his yards up, and let's get a Heisman Trophy, and let's make him the number 1 overall pick.
And I want to be clear about one thing, because I see Ohio State fans getting their diapers full because we're saying that they didn't play well today. I'm not saying Ohio State's a bad team. I'm saying they didn't play well today. And I'm saying if they play like they played today and they played like they played against Notre Dame, when it comes time to play Michigan or when it comes time to be in the Big 10 championship or in the playoff, you're not going to win playing the way you played today. And that's a problem. And that is something I would be concerned about going forward. Sorry.
If they just get a little bit better in the red zone against the better defenses and their defense continues to play the way it's played this year, then I think they're still going to win the Big 10. But they're trying to win something bigger here. They're kind of in that same Bama mode, right? This is the last year of Bryce, most likely. This is the last year with Stroud. And if that's how they're looking at it, that's how I'm looking at it. That's how Tom's looking at it. That's how Chip and everybody on our show is looking at it. I don't think they played badly today. I don't even know if I totally agree they didn't play well. I just don't think they played. A team that's going to win the national title probably wins by a similar score, but is up like 35-10 at halftime.
Yeah. And teams have noticed what Notre Dame and Iowa did to Ohio State today to get them out of sync. And teams are going to use that. They have to solve it. It's just how the sport works.
Can Penn State do that?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's like the perfect zigged and zag the way the college football seasons unfold is that Penn State looks awesome beating a Minnesota team on its backup quarterback. Ohio State doesn't live up to the expectations. Ohio State goes into Happy Valley. Woo, yeah, here we go. Biggest game of the weekend. And the Buckeyes finally decide to turn it on. Unofficial prediction. We'll see when the lines come out on Sunday.